All right, welcome to Zach and Aaron's mediocre video review show. I just want to set the expectation. This is very mediocre, the job that we do. We're going to do the best we can, but if you think we did a bad job, we're warning you. Don't continue watching if you want anything but mediocre. So with that said, this is pretty cool. This is a rescue at Clavey Falls. This is a rapid Aaron and I know pretty well. We've worked here for a long time. And probably seen some have you seen a perch like this before?
Zach, I think I've seen you almost in the exact position that woman's sitting on the front of the boat, except for you were about, I'd say 24 inches higher off the raft than she is right there.
No, you're thinking of the time that when I was a passenger and we wrapped on the nose downstream on that rock.
No, you wrapped right here. This is where you wrapped.
No, we didn't. This is above the falls. Wait,
no, this is below the falls.
Oh, this is Pelican Rock.
This is your rock.
Okay.
Yeah,
Zach. You're right. I've been on a rock that has wrapped here. That's right. But that's a story for another time. That's right. You got me there.
You were rowing the boat, so.
I was not rowing the boat. When we wrapped it, it was Danger Mouse that rowing the boat.
Mm-hmm. Doug Meraki, exactly.
So anyway, right away, I'm looking at this boat and I'm stoked because he's running pins and clips.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think of those stirrups? Have you used those type of stirrups before?
I haven't. They're probably fine. They're adequate. I like the plastic ones we use. Those ones seem a little big, maybe.
Well, and I think if they're the material, I think they're softer. And so when the oar falls off, it kind of falls down. And then you can't just slide it back in because it like hugs it down below the pin. And so I find these, it's way better than no stirrup, but I find them more challenging to use in the harder, firmer stirrups.
If the clip comes off, it drops.
Yeah,
you can't just shove it back in.
Yeah,
with the harder ones, it comes out and you just shove it right back in really easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think these are more, they don't break as easily, which is nice. You probably don't have to replace them as often. You just have to be better if you're using these ones.
You can't pop oars very often, and he's running burly oars. I mean, I like those all ash.
Yeah,
like nice thick oars. I mean, it's I like that, and it looks like he's duct taped counterbalances onto the ends even, so they're even like counterbalanced old school way. I've seen with these oars before. This is what we used to use on the tee, but guides that couldn't handle the heavy oars would just duct tape big rocks to the end to counterbalance them because they couldn't keep them down.
Big rocks? Really?
But that's not what we're here to talk about. Let's talk about this perch. So this is a perch. This is not a wrap, right? This is just a perch.
Yeah. And it's a challenging perch. I mean, there's no place to really, like, where the way they're stuck on the rocks, they can't really get off onto a rock and push it off very easily. Like, you're kind of up on top of the rocks on this perch. So
yeah, like somebody can't just step out here. Oh, there's a good view of it. You can't just step out in the current and push the boat. You could maybe get the oar and pull on the oar and try to change the orientation, but that's about all you can do from the boat.
And then since it's stuck on two rocks, I believe there's a rock on the back and there's a rock on the front. Yeah. It's not easy to, usually you're stuck on one rock and you pivot it, but since there's one rock on each end, you're not pivoting that off very easily. That's I'd say that's almost more challenging than a lot of wraps to get off on your own.
No, the wrap's way harder. The boat's underwater.
Yeah, but usually you wrap around one rock. And then, so if you get rid of some of the force on one side or the other, the boat's going to come off. If you change the force on this a little bit, it's not going to spin off.
I mean, okay, here's my take. If I saw this, I've watched this video before, so I know what they do, and we can get into it. But if I saw this, I would put a throw bag, not a 2-to-1 like they do in a second, to a D-ring that's upstream, not the far D-ring, but upstream a little bit. And I would pull upstream at 45 degrees, trying to rotate the boat, rotate the stern of the boat all the way around so the bow pivots on that rock. I would try that first.
Yeah. I'm in agreement there. I think because you're pulling from this shore, just pivot it around the rock that's under the nose of the boat. Yeah.
Yep. So they're pulling in. What they're gonna do is pull in line with the boat, but I would actually pull like I said, the stern upstream a bit, and just I bet with one. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not there. We're armchair quarterbacks. That's what I would try first. Just throw a D-ring, clip it onto one of those D-rings, and just get a few people pulling and just see what happens. And maybe they already did that. Maybe they did that and it didn't work, and we're just seeing what they did next.
Yeah. All right. Let's watch a little bit more. So yeah.
So they're doing in the back. He's tying. This is actually, by the way, super cool. There's 3 GoPros going right now, or 4. There's a bunch. So we're seeing all kinds of cool angles. There's 2 on the boats shooting both ways, and a lot of these guys have them. So it's pretty rare to have this much footage from a equipment. I'm trying not to call this a rescue, I'm going to call this an equipment. Well, it's a rescue because people are on the boat. But this is a rescue.
He
So
might, one of the things that there might be a spot off the stern of the boat where he could get in the water and try to push the stern of the boat up and around a little bit. I don't know if you could get it far enough, but you might be able to do that too. Yeah.
And that's dangerous. This is safer, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Getting out of the boat here is, kind of sketchy because dinosaur rocks downstream. You can swim into that, and that's not a good spot. So what he's doing in the pack end is he's doing a 2-point anchor on 2 D-rings, which is smart. Would you tie off to the back, or would you try to pull from the front here?
I think I would pull from the frame, from the frame on the boat, because the frame is tied down to so many D-rings, and if you just go around the frame, you don't have to worry and take all that time to do the self-equalizing thing. I'd probably go towards the frame and on the stern end of the frame, go wrap it around there and then pull there on that, because the frame's not going to break, right?
It's not going to break. It's just at times I've done that. The frame shifts within the boat. So if you pull hard, you're basically shifting the frame a little bit instead of actually moving the boat itself.
Yeah. With this one though, I feel like it's not going to take that much force, like you said. So it's like if you were doing like 3-to-1 or something like that, I would maybe be more hesitant depending. But for this, I think just on the frame,
it's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
And it depends how well you rig your frame.
Yeah. The 2-point anchor here is not a bad idea. I mean, it may be the best idea. We're just armchair quarterbacks. And the rescue guy in the front, that's the legend Bob Stanley, somebody I highly respect. And so we know whatever he's doing is smart. So here it is. This is where it's important to be able to tie a 2-point anchor as the person to get stuck. So he did it.
And then now Bob's on scene. He has to nail the throw bag. Everyone's watching.
Yeah, when you're safety hero, you cannot miss this throwback with an audience. So there's a little extra pressure.
And we're not listening to the footage, but I really like how Bob's very clear with his directions. He takes his time. He's promoting calm. This is what we're gonna do. Like it's a well managed scene.
Yep. He even said in the audio, he said, "Do you understand?" And you see the guy shake his head. So that's just smart. So he makes the throw bag toss like a boss.
Yeah.
And so now he's going over there. Like she moves the rope, which is super smart. Like so he doesn't get tangled in the rope. And so this is one of my favorite mechanical advantage systems right here. Super simple, right?
It doesn't look like he's doubled up on that self-equalizing. It looks like it's just one piece of line going through there.
I thought the same, Aaron. And at the very end, you see it closer.
Oh,
he did it right. Yeah.
Okay.
When I saw him do it, it didn't look right either. But he did it right. But but one of my favorite systems is just put a pulley on the thing you want to move, send a rope over, throw the pulley and back. That's a 2-to-1.
But look at the rope they're using. That rope is not. Is that a rescue rope? That's not. That's just a standard throw bag. So that's like.
Yeah, but on a 2-to-1, if you were doing a 3-to-1 with progress capture, you don't want to use this. But for just the beautiful thing about 2-to-1 for a lot of things too, it's not just the 2-to-1 force you get. It's for every 4 feet you pull, you get 2 feet. So you also have fine control of what's happening. So if they need to move the boat 2 feet, they can move the rope 4 feet, and they can perfectly slowly move the boat to do what they want.
That's true.
So there's 2 advantages here.
And the other advantage too is the way they've got this set up. The rope is only ever taking half of the force, because you're not going back to the rope like you are on a Z drag or something like that. So it's only taking half of the force. It's never taking the full force. Yep. So that part.
So it's this wimpy endless throw bag, but putting a 2-to-1 on it, I think, is super smart. Of course, the problem with the 2-to-1 is you have to get a rope out to the boat with a heroic throw, and now he has to do a heroic throw back, which this is a tough throw because it's not coiled, and it's the end of the rope. This toss is amazing.
It's a beautiful toss. I like the slow-mo on it too.
Euro action. And that was
the end of the rope right there.
Pretty much the end of the rope. That is a tough toss. If it was me in the boat, I'd say, hey guys, send me another bag over just so I can not have to make that. And if you miss it, that bag goes down in the river and it's a huge mess to deal with.
Now Zach, here's something, if your line is a little bit longer with the 2-to-1, right? And if you tie off the end, that's the throw bag end, the end with the bag on it, and the other end you don't have a knot on, after you pull it and then you let it go, it'll just zip out through the system. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
So I think what you're saying here is like I'm already thinking this right now. As I'm setting this up, what's going to happen when we get it off? Most people are thinking to themselves, like, let's get the boat off. I'm thinking once it comes off, what's the consequence? And right now what's going through my head is, since we're at the end of the rope, when the boat comes off, what he has in his hand right now is going to jam in the pulley. Mm-hmm. So this boat is going to be downstream twice the length of the rope now, and it's going to jam the bag, which I think he might have taken the bag off because he might have untied it from the bag.
He might have clipped the bag might be on the other side though. He might have.
But they're adding a second bag because they need length right now.
Yeah.
So that junction is going to, when the boat comes off, is going to bind in the pulley. And if it's okay, if it's in a nice eddy down there, but if you're like on a leash at the end of a rope in the middle of a rapid, that's not good. So we'll see what happens here. Hopefully that made sense. That's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. And then Zach, I'm pretty sure they don't have a pulley at the end. They just have a carabiner. Is that correct?
In his on the boat?
On the
boat. It looked like a pulley. It looked like a pulley. Because of the carabiner, this is kind of useless. You kind of need this to be a pulley. I'm pretty sure it's a pulley.
All right.
I'm also thinking here, like, when the boat comes off, that rope and not only the rope but also the anchor, will it hit one of them and knock them out of the boat or tangle them up? Mm-hmm. So where are they sitting relative to what that boat's going to do when the boat comes off?
Yeah. One other thing, Zach, when you talk about pulling with a little more of an upstream angle, looking at this, I think you might almost be able to pull and pivot and pull it up into this eddy right here. See what I'm saying? If they're pulling almost straight from shore right now, but if they were you talked about going 45 degrees upstream and pull it out. I wonder if you could just if you pulled in fast, you could just pull it all the way into the eddy and it doesn't go downstream and you don't have to worry about like undoing the rope and all that stuff. I
don't think you can pull that boat straight this way, because it's like she's sitting on a tube that's on a rock right there. And so to overcome the friction between the tube and the rock, you can't pull the boat straight this way. It has to pivot.
Yeah. I'm agreeing there. I'm just saying, if you even pull a little more upstream, I think they could pull the boat into the eddy right here.
You're right. Going back to, so if you had a rope on the far corner and pulled it upstream, you might be able to just like get it into the eddy and stop it right there.
Yeah. The eddy right in front of Bob, pull fast. As it pivots off, it's gain momentum upstream, and then you can just ferry it in, pull it in fast, and then get it into the eddy up there. And then you don't have to worry about all those problems of it. Because as we know, when the raft goes downstream, a lot of times they'll have more force on the system than it had when it was actually on the rock and when you're pulling on it. So
we've both seen a lot of messes. Once it comes off, after consequence of things breaking and the whole system in reverse, the forces are not something we can predict. And so it's in both of our heads what's going to happen when this is done. Whereas if you can just get in this eddy, you don't have to think about that. That's the thing with the 2-to-1. You do get the fine motor control of 8 feet pulls 4 feet. But then if they do want to pull it, and they have to pull in so much. If they didn't want to just pull it straight to the eddy, they have to pull in so much rope so fast that they couldn't probably do that. Let's keep going.
The other thing we didn't talk about too is that they may not have a good anchor farther upstream, and there might be a way better anchor right here, and that might be why they're pulling from right there. Is just like, here's our good anchor.
It's anchor dependent. Do you like that he's holding his oars?
It's interesting. I'm not sure. I'm not really. I don't have too much of a feeling about that. At the moment. Yeah, I think it might be a little. I would probably want to be just away from that line and not be sitting on the line or near the line where they're pulling from. The one thing though is that they're pulling straight, and they could still, even if they're anchored here, they don't have to pull straight back. They could walk up and have a little bit of a V, and you lose a little bit of your power there, but then your angle pull is going to be way more useful in terms of pulling off the rock. Yeah, that makes sense what I'm saying.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, if you pull their 2-to-1, the 2 ropes in line, it's generally 2-to-1. As soon as you take it out, it's more like 1.7-to-1. But you might have a better place for everybody to pull from, like better rocks to kind of put your feet into. People are more stable,
and a better angle of pulling the boat off the rock.
Yeah, like if they pulled it upstream again, they could pull it up, and that might they might get your goal, which was let's have the boat end up in the eddy instead of going downstream with a rope attached to it, which when it gets undone, the rope's going to run into that river patrol boat. I'm not super stoked on the position of that river patrol boat. Like that, in my mind, should just get moved downstream. Because the ropes, when this boat comes off, it could tangle into that boat somehow.
Yeah, downstream or even upstream. Just move it up to the top of the eddy. Get it so it's not in the because it could catch on that, and that just could be a messy. Totally.
I think Homeboy holding onto it there could. Well, there is downstream safety. See that downstream spotter, so that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But he could be holding it downstream in case there's a swimmer. They could go deal with that down below, but whatever. Yeah. So the thing here that Bob does an amazing job, and if you guys watch the real video, I'll put a link in the notes. The original video here, he does an amazing job of slowly explaining to everybody what's going to happen. So where it says prep your crew, it's a very nice. Usually at this point, all the safety squirrels are like, let's pull, let's use all of our knowledge, let's see what happens. And Bob just takes his time and just slowly explains what's going on.
Yeah.
I do notice, like, the one thing about Bob, I'm going to make a small criticism. The tail on his safety jacket is a little long there, right? Like, it's supposed to be like about a hand size. It's about a foot. So if he had to actually use it, I would worry about it binding if he released. You can see it flapping in the wind, so it's very obvious that thing's maybe a little bit long. And there's no ring in the back. He has the jacket, but not the ring.
Maybe he just likes it for the flotation.
Yeah. But there's a really
that's a bomber anchor. That's a bomber anchor. I can see why they anchored there. That is a really nice anchor. That's not going anywhere.
What was it?
I'll just go back a little bit and you'll see it. Yeah. They just not that far. Yeah.
Is it just a big rock?
Yeah, huge rock. Yeah. I mean,
it's like they put
the rope they put a rope all the way around it. Which is interesting is that if you go back, it'll be interesting to look at the anchor, the way they did the anchor. It was just for a quick
come up or have to go back further?
Yeah, go back to when he was talking to them and prepping them.
Or is that right there?
Wait. Tiger stands.
Prep your crew, right around here?
No, back. Go back in time farther. Start there. Start right there, and then it's gonna be here after this. I think he preps the crew, and then we're gonna see the anchor for a quick second.
A very quick second. I don't think. Well, so you're saying they just roped. Oh, there it is. Gosh, let me see if I can catch that. Oh man, I just missed it again.
Right there. Oh,
compelling video for everybody. So this is a very simple system. Yeah. So they just basically wrapped a rope around the rock, and then tied. I'm not sure is that a bowline maybe?
I don't know, a couple half hitches. But one thing I'm confused about with great anchor. Mm-hmm. Now, if they had just used the very end of the rope here for the anchor, would they have had enough so they wouldn't have to tie the extra other rope onto the first rope and be able to pull with just the one rope?
I mean, that's one thing we think about sitting here in the couch.
Yeah, just a question. Yeah.
When there's two people on a boat and there's probably people up in the eddy above, I would have made a ton of mistakes because I'm like, oh man, there's some rush because I'm sure people are staring at us from the top eddy, like get your boat out of the way. But yeah, there's probably a way you could have used the ropes better. But this is, I wouldn't call this like a standard anchor for loads. I would try to use webbing. I'm guessing that red bag is a safety kit. I'm not sure. I would have taken the webbing because if you did have to then turn this into a more powerful system, you have the anchor right. This is just like lean and mean and quick.
It's just using your throw bag. I mean, pretty much.
You're using a throw bag.
And just get it done. Yeah.
It's not, those of you that are watching, I don't think it's super standard to use your throw bag to tie around something. It's best practice probably to use some webbing or something.
And then if you clip the end of the throw bag off, you'd have a lot of extra.
You have a lot more rope.
Yeah. Like I said, but he's got everyone on the upstream side of the rope. They're doing everything right in terms of everyone's wearing their helmets and life jackets. They're all set. The other reason, Zach, I like pulling, if you're not pulling straight here, if something does break and snap back, if you're like a little wider angle, it's going to fly between you. It's not as likely to come up and hit you.
So what you're saying is as they pull right now, if something breaks and all the stuff fires back at the pullers, when you're in line with the pull, you're going to get hit by that stuff. Right. Whereas if you're up at an angle, it's not going to come back and hit the people pulling. Yeah. Which on a 2-to-1, I don't think is a big deal, but if this was a 3-to-1, I'd be a little nervous.
Yeah. Okay.
What's fighter stance? Oh, fighter stance, like you're like not like an airplane fighter, but like Rocky Balboa. So it just works.
It works great. You know, and I think at the end of the day, that's the key, is it worked well. You know.
Yep. I mean, it was.
And
like
then Zach, if you notice, the person who was down there on the raft is gone now. They got rid of it. That person who was down there, they got that person out of the way.
Oh, that boat's tied up.
Yeah,
so
and they got rid of the person, because I didn't like that person down there either, and so they got rid of the person. So there's no person downstream, or that, you know, Bob's thinking about all those variables.
Yeah.
So they could almost raft here a little bit as they came off. That's interesting. So
well, they're pulling the boat. They're pulling the boat upstream. I mean, it's going to make the boat catch a little bit of water. The tube catch a little bit of water.
Well, particularly when they're pulling from the back end too. If they pull from the side of the raft, they're not going to be pulled down in the water.
Suck if you pulled off a perch and it turned into a raft. I've never heard that happening. That'd be embarrassing.
The boat just flips. Oh, yeah.
But this is where I'm just guessing, like Bob's experience. He just knows. Let's just throw a 2-to-1 on there. We know it'll come off. It doesn't take much force. A 2-to-1 will help us do it. I mean, it comes off. It's just this. They're not even trying. This isn't like a really, everybody's pulling pretty hard. Everybody's pulling in control. Nobody's, going outside of their depth. But this is the moment that I would think about right here. Now what happens? Right? He's not holding onto the oars anymore, I don't think. And now I'm thinking those guys holding onto the rope, the boat's going to move fast. Everybody's going to want to let go because it's going to basically burn your fingers. If the pullers try to hold the boat there, the rope's just going to feed through all their fingers and they're going to get rope burn. So they're probably going to all let go. And the boat's going to go down and the rope's going to swing into the river patrol boat.
Yeah, they hold on though.
Oh, they did hold on.
Yeah, that little.
And that's the advantage of the 2-to-1. I mean, that is the advantage of the 2-to-1. Is the rope's not going to slide through as fast.
That's interesting. Yeah, you're okay. Is there a pulley on there, Zach?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it looks like there is.
Yeah, and he did tie to the frame.
Yeah.
So he did go to the frame, like your idea, like that.
So I'm going to say one thing here that I really like in this type of setting is if I'm on the raft, I take my throw bag, throw it to shore, undo the knot on my throw bag, and just wrap it around the frame a couple of times. And then you can even hold on the other end after you wrap it around. They can pull, and then you let go, and they can just pull. They can pull the rope to shore, and there's no knot in the water. There's nothing.
Or stabilize the boat in some way, whether it's a throw bag or, somebody can almost walk there and hold the boat. Untie all the hardware before you go downstream.
No, I'm saying like back when they were perched at the beginning, I'm on my raft. I take a throw bag, throw it to shore, right? Don't have a knot on my end. I do a no knot friction, wrap it around the frame like 4 times or 3 times. Okay. It's something, and then I have a tail that I hold on to, and then they can pull, because I got that friction on there, they can pull the boat off, and as soon as we're off, I just let go of that end of the rope, and you can pull it off the frame.
So you mean instead of doing any of this, just do a throw bag around your frame that they can pull on a friction, and then,
and then you're done, and then you undo it, and then you're away, and they can pull the throw bag back to shore, and there's no bag in the water, there's none of this mess. Because once you're off, you're like here, they're like, there's not like, oh God, there's something big downstream. It's like, and there's a raft down there waiting. It's just like, okay, hey, it's a clean way to go. I've had good success with that too. Particularly with the old frames that have like the little metal going up higher, like the little triangle going up. You just wrap around that a few times.
Yeah, but they didn't do that.
No.
They tied a 2-point anchor to the frame. They have a pulley on a 2-to-1. And now they're in a situation where, like, how do we untie all of this stuff so we can continue progress downstream? So that's always an issue you have when you get in. The more complicated your system is, the more complicated it is to unhinge everything. And that's the beauty of the 2-to-1 here. If they're doing a 3-to-1 here, that's a bigger mess.
Yeah.
There's less of a post-perch mess going on here.
And I'll say clearly it was a good choice. Like the rescue went really well. Everything was very controlled. The boat ended up in a good spot. Like there was never a point where you're like, oh gosh, this seems out of control. So, I mean, that's the thing. We're talking about all these different options, and the way they did it worked great.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, if this happened again, I was on a trip and someone do it like this, I'd be like, cool, yeah, that works. That's cool. Let's do it.
I mean, that's the thing is once you, like the Tuolumne's River, once you've worked there long enough, like Bob has, you've seen wraps and perches everywhere. You're like, oh yeah, I've done this exact one before. Let's go to this anchor. Let's do this thing. You know, like Bob's probably done this exact same thing before, tried different things. And this, he's like, oh, I just know this works here. You know, when people wrap in rock garden, I'm like, oh, yep, let's do this exact thing we always do. And so you learn how to deal, like you learn what works in specific spots. So, you know, Bob just knows like, let's do this 2-to-1 thing. It's just, let's use this anchor. I did it last time and it worked great. Let's stick the river patrol boat in the way and see what happens.
I think a couple of things to review is be cautious about using standard throw bags with mechanical advantage. That's like, you're playing, you're getting into a risky area with that.
Why?
Why? Because they're not designed for that type of force. How much force
are you worried they're going to break?
Yeah. Yeah.
But like a 2-to-1 on a boat like this, they're probably not going to break. Have you ever seen a throw bag break? Exactly. Done.
I'm trying to think. Well, but Zach, I've never really, no trip that I'm on, do we ever put any load on throw bags?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for just like a standard throw bag, depending on the bag, using it for like a 2-to-1 just to try a quick, like easy pull. If they were doing the whole like 1, 2, 3 pull, 1, 2, 3 pull, that's when they're beyond the limits of that standard throw bag.
But that's one of the things that I struggle with the throw bag though, is that people go with it and then they start ratcheting up because stuff isn't working.
Yeah, I think
that's where you have to be just.
This is going back to the throw bag around the rock as an anchor. If you ratchet up, that can't be a throw bag around a rock. I think Bob just did like.
Oh, totally.
He knew, he's like, if I just put the rope around, I've done this before. I know it's going to take a little bit of force. Yeah. You know, he just knew. I think you're right. And most people should do I think if you got to this situation, didn't know how to handle it, go with the webbing around the rock, pull out the stronger rescue rope, like do it right. But because you know, but I bet Bob knows it wasn't going to get ratcheted up.
Well, and that's kind of my point is like Bob knows what it's going to take to get it off. He knows he's not going to have to go past that, and so he uses this. So I'm just saying for like people listening, be careful about that. Like, and my rule in general is like I'll do a throwback from shore if I'm just pulling it with a few people.
Yeah.
But as soon as we start doing pulleys and anchors, a standard throwback, no, a spectral throwback, okay, but with the standard. In general, I mean, there's always exception. And this is a great exception. Like this is a great place that works well.
Yeah, I hear you. I think with throw bags, I don't worry about the throw bag breaking. If it breaks, it breaks. Like it's not gonna hurt anybody.
Probably. Yeah, it can snap back with that
throw bag breaking. It's the rope snaps back.
Yeah, that's gonna snap back.
I don't know if I.
Did you ever see that? Julie and Abby had this photo of this rope that they were using to pull something out, and the rope snapped back and it melted through a guy's thigh. It was so hot, it just straight through it. Yeah, it was crazy.
Okay, so maybe I misspoke. Maybe you're right. You don't want the rope to break. But I'm more a fan. Aaron, you still with me? Oh, I might have lost Aaron here. But while he's not really here, I'm more a fan of a rope that doesn't stretch. So I'd rather have it be like minimal stretch, minimal elongation. So when you pull on the rope pulls in the boat than having it strong. So I'm a big fan of like stiff rope, not always strong rope. Did you hear any of that, Aaron?
So yeah, I heard most of it. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. So I mean, what I was just saying was like, I care more that the rope doesn't give. I want it to like not stretch more than I care about strength. So I'm not a fan of Spectra and Dyneema. I'm a fan of like ropes that are just like stiff and don't give much. And also like thick ropes. Like Spectra ropes tend to be thin, so they're hard to pull with. I'd rather have like a thicker diameter rope so I can actually grip it with my hands.
Well, I think we're different because I just really don't use ropes very often at all. So I'm not really that concerned about it.
Well, yeah, but you're not going to deflate a tube off of that mess.
No, and I'll say this is one of the few spots, and I will say like historically I've used ropes to pull boats off that are perched badly way more often than I've used ropes to take care of wraps. I feel like wraps are easier to deal with for me without ropes than bad perches are.
That's a whole separate debate. Let's finish this up before we get into that mess. So here he is. They're untying, And he has a tough move here because he has to, that's Dinosaur Rock right in front of him. He really probably, maybe he can go right actually, but he's going to need to go left. So he has to get untied, which they didn't undo the anchor on the boat. They just got the throw bag off of it, which is fine, I guess. And now he's going to have to make this like pretty hard pull across Dinosaur Rock. By the way, that paddle boat in the eddy right there, that's an impressive feat.
That's a ceramic boat.
That's, I mean, he caught that eddy and just hung out there for a while. I'm not sure if it's really helpful him being there. Like, they're not going to affect a rescue from that spot. Like, if they fell out, that person's probably not going to pull somebody in above Dinosaur Rock. But it's cool that he caught that eddy.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if the swimmer comes off those rocks up there, they're not going to get out in time to pull that person. They might as well just have him swim through without having a boat next to him.
He does a nice job of getting out and ferrying across and has a nice line here.
My favorite part too is he's got a smile on his face. You know, didn't let it get, you know, a lot of times people are just like get down on themselves. Like we're allowed to make mistakes. We're allowed to get stuck. You know, he's not like down on himself. He's just enjoying it. She's enjoying it. Like, that was fun.
If you never got stuck, I mean, rafting wouldn't be that interesting and exciting. If you never had bad lines, it would be
I mean, because when we're boating, right, if you just go do class 2 when you're a class 4 boater, you do like you're bored. Like, I think that like true when we're boating or doing a lot of things, we want to be at the limit of what we can do, so we're like in the zone. A lot of times the goal of boating is to put ourselves in like a zone, and you have to be at your like limit of ability, challenging yourself to have that adrenaline rush that we're looking for, right? So, you know, and when you do that, if you do that enough reps, eventually you're going to make a mistake, no matter how good you are, you know? So if you're bored here in the lower Tuolumne, then you're going to go do the upper Tuolumne over and over and over at your limits. And occasionally up there, you're going to make a mistake. And so being understanding that people are, you know, as long as people aren't getting way in over their heads, but like at their level, you're allowed to make mistakes here.
I think the Tuolumne is so challenging. It's a great place because you can always get, particularly at low water, you can always get stuck and get hung up. You know, no one's perfect there all the time. So, yeah.
Well, this has been fun.
Sweet,
if
Zach.
you guys made it to the end of our mediocre show, this one was particularly mediocre, Aaron. I felt like we did a particularly mediocre job this time. What do you think?
I'm proud of our mediocrity.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah,
I think someday we'll do better at this, and it'll be our good show. But that's going to be a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good. We'll move from mediocre to good.
Yeah, it'll be Zach
and Aaron's good video review show.
Our really, really, really good show. We won't say things that people think are wrong, and you know, we won't stutter in our words. You won't go off your internet won't die for 20 seconds. But for now, we'll just accept our mediocrity and go from there.
Yeah, great. This is fun. Thanks, Zach.
Yep. Thanks for joining, Aaron.